Hi guys, and welcome to the camera comparison of these two phones, the Honor Magic 6 Pro and the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. I wanted to see how does the Honor Magic 6 Pro compare to the S24 Ultra, and I conducted some tests. So I tested the front camera, video, photo and portrait mode in day and at night. And of course I also tested the rear cameras, went through the zoom range at day and at night, and also portrait mode at day, then also video of course. Then I tested the macro capabilities of both phones, and I also tested the quality of slow motion that these two phones deliver. And I would say, without further ado, let's head into the video. Okay, so this is my camera test of the Magic 6 Pro against the S24 Ultra. This one here is the S24 Ultra and this one is the Honor Magic 6 Pro. I'm currently recording with the front camera. Both phones are set to 4K 30 FPS because the Honor is not able to record 4K 60 with the front camera. And this is the 1X front camera. Both phones have the option to also switch to a 0.8 or a slightly wider field of view when recording with the front camera. Both phones are currently on a little tripod bracket, really closely next to each other, and I'm walking with normal speed, so you can see how stabilization is working. And I know we'll also jog a little to see how both phones are holding up with stabilization. And let's go back, stay still for a moment so that we are able to just look at the image quality. Now I'm recording with the front cameras. Both phones are set to 4K 60. This one is the S24 Ultra and this one is the Magic 6 Pro. So here we also can look at stabilization. Now I'm changing to 3x on the S24 Ultra and 2x on the Magic 6 Pro. And I'm now changing to 2.6x on the Magic 6 Pro. Now 5 times on the S24 Ultra, and now we are going into digital zoom territory on the Magic 6 Pro. Both phones are currently set to 5x. Also, let's now see how stabilization looks. Just walking normally with normal speed. Again 5x, and now I'm going to 10x on the S24 Ultra and 10x on the Magic 6 Pro. And immediately on the screen you can see that of course the S24 Ultra has the edge here because it's using only a 2x crop. 5x is the native resolution of the camera, and you can see that the resolution is much better compared to the Honor Magic 6 Pro, because this is only using digital zoom up to this point from the 2.5x telephoto camera. Here we have some text. Much better on the S24 Ultra. Now I'm using the rear cameras for kind of a vlogging test. Both phones are set to 1x, so using the native camera lens and sensor. This one is the Honor Magic 6 Pro and this one is the S24 Ultra. And I'm holding both phones an arm length away and just walking at a normal pace. Let me just stand still to see how the image is holding up. Perhaps we can also look at dynamic range. How is dynamic range working? And let me now walk back. And also, let's implement a little jog. Wow. Needed to jump. How is this working? Yes, and also let's look at the sound. I'm always switching back and forth between the sound of both phones. Okay. Now let's look at some slow motion footage from both phones. We're starting with Full HD 120 because the Magic 6 Pro cannot record in 4K 120. It is only able to record in Full HD for slow motion. And on the left you have the S24 Ultra, on the right you have the Magic 6 Pro, and this is Full HD 120 footage. Yeah, and now you can see why I said it's an embarrassing part of this video. Seeing an old man jump. Oh yeah. So in general, looking at the footage, and you can see this now also in the freeze frame, and this is how it looked like. It looks like when an over 40-year-old guy that most of the time sits in front of his computer tries to do some sport. Okay, but you can see the quality of both phones is quite comparable at Full HD 120. The Honor again is a little bit, has a higher exposure, but in terms of sharpness, the S24 Ultra is a little bit better. The Honor is a little bit more pixelated, so I think the codec and stuff like this is a little bit better on the S24 Ultra. And now let's look at 240p, and you can see that in general the S24 Ultra is a little bit more overprocessed, a little bit more sharpening is going on. In general, most of the times the quality decreases when you go to higher frame rates, and the S24 Ultra really gets a kind of overprocessed look. Also the Honor doesn't look as good as with 120p. Look at the sky, for example, very strange. But I mean, that's not the most important thing when shooting slow-mo, right? It's getting these facial expressions and these special moments. With 240p, I'm really hard pressed to pick a winner. The Galaxy is too overprocessed. The Honor is overexposed, and now let's look also at the freeze frame. Also a very epic moment here. I mean, looking at the picture, I feel like Spider-Man. Yeah, so also very comparable. Both process Full HD 240p footage differently, and I would not say the S24 Ultra looks much better than the Magic 6 Pro. So I think this is also very comparable. And then last but not least, I also compared 4K 120 of the S24 Ultra with Full HD 120 of the Magic 6 Pro to see how big of a difference this is. Yes. Enjoy these epic moments, guys. Okay, now we are going into the 200% crop, and here you can see, especially looking at the pans and also the background, yeah, it's sharper, of course, the 4K compared to the Full HD of the Honor Magic 6 Pro. So in general, the S24 Ultra has the edge here because it just can record with higher resolution. But in general, I think Full HD footage is very usable and very comparable with both phones. Now it's getting interesting as we enter low light / nighttime video and photo, and I'm recording this on the front camera on both phones. This is the S24 Ultra, this is the Magic 6 Pro, and already on the screens I can tell that the Magic 6 Pro is trying to bump up brightness and by that pretty much destroying the video. And this is 1x now, and the S24 Ultra looks much better. There's still some light, but not enough, and I don't think I need to do this in really dark situations, because then I think the quality will really fall apart, and this doesn't make sense. So this is kind of, I mean, the S24 Ultra kind of displaying the situation correctly. This here is much too bright. Am I able to reduce the brightness? Yes, so this is now minus 3.9, and I think I can go to -3. So sometimes it makes sense to use some manual settings or to adjust exposure to get a better result, right? And I think now it jumped back to automatic exposure, and this is now -3, and this is now much closer to the S24 Ultra, and also of course the quality will be comparable, I think. So keep in mind, automatic settings are not always the best settings. Now we are filming with the rear cameras, 1x. I will not go into zoom, we'll just stay at 1x for now, because with 2x, 3x I'm not able to film myself. But this is just to see if there's a difference between, and there should be a difference between the rear cameras and the front cameras, of course. And I'm walking on the street here. Should have taken the sidewalk. Yes. So these are the rear cameras, and let me just take a look at exposure. They are pretty comparable. We'll now hold the phone like this to also look at how stabilization works. Okay, now we can cycle through the zoom range. This is now 2x and 3x. 2x on the Honor Magic 6 Pro and 3x on the S24 Ultra. And now this is 2.6x on the Honor. And we can now go to 5x on the S24 Ultra. What did just happen? Yeah, interesting. So this is 3x, this is 5x, and it gets much darker. And now let's also go to 5x on the Honor. And I'm trying to adjust exposure on the S24 Ultra, but it doesn't really do anything. So from looking at the screen, the Honor looks much better. Interesting. And just for fun, let's go to 10x. What the S24 Ultra is doing here, and I'm just moving the exposure slider, but it doesn't do anything. When I do the same on the Honor, I can adjust exposure. Okay, but let's just go back to 1x. Now let's look at some photos, and I started with the front camera and with portrait mode. So this is a 1x image with portrait mode, and looking at the image on the left is always the Honor Magic 6 Pro, and on the right is the Galaxy S24 Ultra. And looking at both images, I like the Honor Magic 6 Pro's image more. It's a little bit more friendly, it's warmer, and it's also, I think, more accurate. The S24 Ultra's image is a little bit too pale and too muted. And also from first look, it looks a little bit over processed. Also, edge detection is not as good in this image. Then I took another image, just another perspective. It's also interesting to see that Honor blurs the background much more than the Galaxy S24 Ultra. But also in this case, I like the image of the 6 Pro more than that of the S24 Ultra, just because I like the skin tones more, and also in the colors in general. I think it's a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more friendly. And also here in this image, I think that the S24 Ultra looks a little bit too over processed, over sharpened. So now I like the 6 Pro more. And this is also interesting. This is just the front camera without portrait mode. And I don't know what happened with the S24 Ultra. Look at the sharpening. It's really over sharpened, really a digital image, right? Because it's so over sharpened. Look at the branches, look at the grass, look at the bushes, also beard hair and stuff like this. So not a good image. Also, the image of the 6 Pro is not much better because I don't like the colors. I mean, the difference between the color of the grass is quite drastic. Also, the sky is a little bit too dramatic. So in general, it's both images are not very good. But if I had to choose, I would choose the Honor Magic 6 Pro, just because it doesn't look so over processed and over sharpened like the S24 Ultra. Okay, let's stay with portraits, and this is now the rear camera. Again, Honor Magic 6 Pro on the left and Galaxy S24 Ultra on the right, and this is the 1x lens with portrait mode and a whole body portrait. And I think it's quite interesting how different these images look, right? The Honor Magic 6 Pro's image is much more saturated when looking at the greens and the jacket, whereas the Galaxy S24 Ultra's image is more muted. And I think it's a matter of taste, right? I, in this case, like the Honor's image more because it's, yeah, again, more friendly, more colorful. And I mean, you have the option to tone this down by choosing other color profiles. But what's also interesting is that the background blur in the image is much higher on the Honor Magic 6 Pro's image compared to the Galaxy S24's image. And again, I think in some places the Galaxy S24 image looks a little bit too digital and too processed. Then let's go into a 100% crop. And here you can see two things. The first is that both phones had problems with edge detection in the 1x portrait. So on the left side, the Honor, you can see that around the ears, the head, the cap and so on, there are problems with edge detection, and the same is true for the Galaxy S24 Ultra. But it's also quite interesting to see that the image quality of the S24 Ultra falls apart when you zoom in, right? So I think in general, the image quality of the Honor is a little bit more pleasing and not as digital. I mean, this is a common theme, I think, at least on my S24 Ultra, that the software or the scene optimizer tries sometimes too hard to sharpen the image and to improve it. Another portrait, again 1x. Now I'm standing a little bit nearer to the camera, and it's the same as the image before. Now the S24 Ultra applied more background blur compared to the full body portrait, but still Honor Magic 6 Pro applied much more background blur than the S24 Ultra. And besides that, it's the same. Let's look at the 100% crop. In this case, now standing nearer at the camera, the edge detection worked very well in both cases. But again, I prefer the image of the 6 Pro because the details are not as sharp, but at the same time, they are not as processed as with the S24 Ultra. Also look at the zoom in. I think it looks better on our side. Then we have a 2x portrait, and now the difference in background blur becomes quite apparent. Look at the Honor Magic 6 Pro's image and the Galaxy S24 Ultra's image. Regarding color saturation, it stays the same. So no difference here. I think also consistency is quite good in both phones. And looking at this image with 100% crop, I don't like the background blur of the Honor. It looks a little bit unnatural, to be honest, because it just basically cuts out the subject and blurs the background, which is not very convincing, I have to say. So I like a subtle background blur much more. Color-wise, I prefer the Honor. From a realistical standpoint, I prefer the S24 Ultra because the black background blur is more realistic. But in this case, again, I think the S24 Ultra applied too much processing to the image, unfortunately. Now we're going to 2.5x and 3x. And interestingly, in this case, the Honor reduced the saturation when compared to the 2x portrait mode. In this case, do I have to say, I would prefer the S24 Ultra's image because edge detection is much better. Look at the edges again with the Honor around the head and the ears. It's not very accurate, also around the shoulders, so it had some problems to cut out the subject here. This is much better realized in the S24 Ultra's image. And also, I think the background blur again is more realistic with the S24 Ultra. And we can also look at this in 100% crop and look at the Honor. You can see all the errors it made with edge detection. And in this case, also the S24 Ultra's image is much better in terms of processing, not as much sharpening as in the other image. So I think also the skin colors are much more accurate. This is a really, really nice image of the S24 Ultra. Then this is 1x without portrait mode and more realistic is definitely the S24 Ultra. The Honor is too saturated and too punchy in this case. But in general, regarding processing, sharpening, they are very similar, I have to say. 100% crop. Then we have a 2.5x and 3x in normal mode without portrait mode. In this case, I like that we have some natural background blur with the image of the Honor Magic 6 Pro, which is not present in the image of the S24 Ultra. In this case, I would give the point to the Honor Magic 6 Pro because it also again reduced the amount of saturation when compared to the 1X. And in this case, also the Honor is more accurate with regards to colors. The S24 Ultra is a little bit too muted and too gray, I would say. We can also look at this with 100%. And I really like the background blur here with the Honor. Because then it doesn't look like a smartphone photo, right? In contrast to the image of the S24 Ultra. And then I also tried to do a 5x, and this was a little bit difficult to get the framing right. And I don't know what happens with the Honor here. Skin tones too red and over-processed, over-sharpened. Not a very good image. Clear point for the S24 Ultra, much better image. So, and this is, and you will see this later when going to higher zoom levels, 5x and above, the S24 Ultra has the clear edge in comparison to the Honor. But in general, I have to say, portrait mode definitely not the strongest mode for the Honor, but also not bad. Okay, now we are going to another scene where I wanted to test the zoom range, and this is the ultra wide in both cameras. And you again can see that the Honor produces more saturated and more color intense and vibrant images. To be fair, this also was the vibrant color profile, but it's very similar to the natural profile of the Honor Magic 6 Pro. This is the 100% crop. Very comparable images. Then we are going to 1x. Also, I think these are very comparable. The Samsung has less contrast, less saturation, and I think a little bit more sharpening. Let's go to 100%. Yeah, the same. Then we are going to 2.5x and 3x, so both native zoom lenses. Also here, I don't see a lot of differences when zooming into the image. Both are very fine, I have to say. 100% crop. Also here, apart from contrast and saturation, very comparable and very good images. Then we're going to 5x. So, and in 5x on the Honor, we are in digital zoom territory because it's only 2.5x optical, and then 5x is digital cropping or digital zooming whereas the 5x is the optical and native telephoto on the S24 Ultra. And here you can see that here the Honor needs to do more post-processing on the image to retain sharpness and mid-tone details and fine details. And in this case, the Honor went a little bit overboard with processing. I mean, the image in general is still very usable, but you can see that processing now kicks in. Also in the 100% crop, you start to see this when, for example, look at the planks, the grass, the sand, the stairs. Here we have some digital sharpening and enhancement, but looking at it, yeah, on a small screen it's fine. Then we're going to 10x, and it's quite interesting that the field of view is different between the Honor and the Galaxy S24 Ultra, although they're both 10x, so definitely has something to do with the native focal length. But 10x means 4 times digital zoom on the Honor and only 2 times on the Galaxy S24 Ultra. And I would say 10x is the maximum you should use with the Honor when you start, because you start to have a lot of artifacts. Look at the ropes, for example. Let's also go to 100%. Then you start to see that at some of the ropes detail is completely lost, because the phone software tries to rescue the details, or also tries to hide noise, and this is not very good. So on the S24 Ultra, detail is very well preserved, also with 10x. And on the Honor, this is really a turning point where I would say after 10x, don't use the images anymore. And we're going to see this with the 30x zoom. 30x on the S24 Ultra also starts to produce artifacts and start to look very digitally and over-processed. But I would say 30x still usable on the S24 Ultra, whereas on the Honor, especially look at the holes, you get this kind of oil painting effect because you don't have any details left. Also look at the ropes. So 30x definitely just for emergency use. And then the also 100% crop, you can clearly see that you have no details anymore in the ropes. And then let's go to 100x. And here you can see the difference. So of course, both are not usable, but you can see that the S24 Ultra is still better, and you can imagine that these are ropes, right? Because in case of the Honor, it does something out of, it's pure fantasy what the phone does with 100x and starts to add detail where they don't belong. Let's also go to 100% crop, and you can see that, for example, in the Honor on the left side, the rope starts completely blending into the background, exactly the same as, different but similar on the S24 Ultra. So in general, 100x not usable on both phones, but definitely better on the S24 Ultra. And last but not least, let's talk about night mode. And with night mode, I don't want to lose a lot of words because, to be honest, I think both phones are very comparable when using night mode. So I will just cycle through the images. I took some images with 1x and the tele and the ultra wide. And as you can see, here you really need to start pixel peeping to find a phone that is more capable. I think they are in night mode very, very comparable when it comes to the images. Sometimes the Galaxy tries to lighten the images more, and the skies tend to be more blue and too light. But as you can see, in general, both produce very comparable images. So I'm happy with both, and I cannot pick a clear winner here. Now we are going into macro mode, and in general both cameras are very capable macro shooters. And I started with this coin because I wanted to include a macro that was shot under controlled conditions. It's always something different to shoot macros outside in nature where everything is moving with the wind, stuff like this. So this coin was lit in a good way, and this shows how good the macro capabilities is. In general, I think the S24 Ultra is sharper than the Honor Magic 6 Pro, but I think I can focus closer with the Honor Magic 6 Pro. And as always, it's not really clear how much of this sharpness difference is due to post-processing in the phone, but just looking at the images also in 100% view, it's quite clear that the S24 Ultra produces a sharper image. But nevertheless, I think the macro images of the Honor Magic 6 Pro are still impressive, and they provide really good macro images. And then let me cycle through some images I took outside. I'm not completely sure if I hit focus here on the left side with the Honor, but in both images have some kind of unsharp areas and distortion. So of course not the best image, but it just shows that they are quite comparable. Also in this image, I think the S24 Ultra has more clarity, also again more sharpness. The next image, both not very sharp. Then some dewdrops on grass. Here's interesting that the colors are renditioned differently. Also here you can see that possibly the Magic 6 Pro was able to focus closer. And also in this image, I think there is a difference in sharpness. So in general, I like the image of the S24 Ultra here more, but I think both are very capable. Also in this shot, this time I think I like the Honor more, and also here sharpness is more comparable. So with macro, it's always key to nail focus, and that's not always easy when you have to rely on autofocus and hold the phone still, stuff like this. So I think this came out really nice and really shows how good the macro capabilities of both phones are. So if you are into macro, I think you will have fun with both phones. And that's it. That was my video about the cameras of the Honor Magic 6 Pro and the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. And to sum this up, my personal opinion is that's a really good phone. I liked the video quality, although sometimes it tends to overexpose, but you can just drag the exposure down, so that's fine. I liked the photo quality. I would really say it's head-to-head with the S24 Ultra, and one area where the Galaxy is clearly better than the Honor Magic 6 Pro is portrait mode. I think portrait mode, sometimes the Honor goes overboard with processing. Also the background blur the Honor produces is not convincing, because what the Honor basically does is cutting out the subject, sometimes also not very well. You have artifacts around the subject and edge detection doesn't work always. And then it basically blurs the whole background. And that's not convincing. I think the S24 Ultra is more subtle in creating a background blur, and also it's more convincing because the S24 Ultra not only blurs the background but also blurs the sides of the face, and also, for example, arms and shoulders, so parts of the body that are closer to the camera. And this is exactly what a normal lens would do. look at my hands, they're closer to the camera and they are not sharp, and also the background is not sharp, and I basically have a focal plane here, and this makes the depth of field convincing, and this is completely unconvincing in the Honor Magic 6 Pro. So this is what I don't like. Of course, one advantage the S24 Ultra has over the 6 Pro is it is able to record in higher resolutions up to 8K, and also with higher frame rates. For example, on the front camera, the S24 Ultra is able to record up to 4K 60, and the Honor Magic 6 Pro caps out at 4K 30. And also on the back cameras, when we're speaking about slow motion, the Honor can not record in 4K 120, the S24 Ultra can, and slow motion on the Honor is only available in 1080p, so that's definitely an area where the S24 Ultra shines. And one advantage the Honor has is that it has a very bright zoom lens, and this is of course an advantage when you use the zoom lens at night. I think at night, and you saw this in some of the photos, it's better than the Galaxy S24 Ultra. So I really like this phone, I have to say, and I'm also working on a full review, but this always takes some time because I want to use the phones in different situations to provide a really good assessment of, in general, the quality of the phone. But the comparison really showed that these two phones are really, really comparable, and that's great. What do you think? How do these two phones compare? Did you like the S24 Ultra more or the Honor Magic 6 Pro, or was there one area where you thought, hey, this is the area where one phone clearly wins? Let's discuss this in the comments, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I would be more than happy to welcome you in one of my upcoming videos. Until then, as always, take care and bye.